Thank you on behalf of AIA Detroit for joining our event tonight. I'd first like to welcome tonight's event sponsor, Mohawk Flooring. To kick things off with a brief introduction is Mohawk's local rep, Carolyn Dwyer. Carolyn?
Thank you, Lauren. We're so excited to be a part of this CEU today. It's really kind of near and dear to our hearts, the initiatives on carbon neutral and carbon neutral design. And I'm very excited that Ramey Vogel of Mohawk will be giving a little introduction before we begin the CEU. Ramey is a multidisciplinary professional with strategic expertise in sustainability and the built environment. At Mohawk, Ramey primarily supports the Mohawk Group, the commercial division, in integrating sustainability in key business planning and operations as well. She has significant knowledge and understanding across the gamut of topics, including carbon, human health and well-being, social impact, and more. Ramey holds a bachelor's degree in architecture from J.J. College of Architecture in Mumbai and a master's degree in architecture from Illinois Institute of Technology, Chicago. Through her professional experience in India and the U.S., Ramey brings with her in-depth knowledge of architecture, engineering, systems, and sustainability, along with her diverse cultural background. She is a LEED and a WELL AP and is an ambassador for the Living Building Challenge. She currently serves as a member on the LEED Materials and Resources Technical Advisory Group and the Mindful Materials Manufacturers Working Group. And on that note, I'm happy to turn it over to Ramey for a few words.
Thank you so much, Caroline, and thank you so much for joining us today. So I'm going to be starting with a video of our new Crossing Current collection that draws a lot of inspiration from nature, and I wanted to share that and then walk you through some of Mohawk's sustainability initiatives.
A stream or river ecosystem is more than just the flowing water that can be seen on the surface. Beneath the moving waters, there is a region of sediment and porous space on the bottom and alongside the riverbed. Water flowing into this zone carries nutrients, pollutants, and dissolved oxygen, and water flowing back out carries transformed products into the stream, allowing fish, plants, and other organisms to thrive. Crossing Current is part of the Waterways Project. The Waterways Project is a series of collections, new technologies, and initiatives aimed at making a positive impact on our river system and nurturing a more symbiotic relationship with river ecosystems.
As we looked at the river ecosystems, we landed on the hyporheic zone, which is an important zone in the river system in many ways, a natural carbon capture zone. In a warming world, anywhere that we find that naturally exists to capture carbon is an important zone for us to identify and protect. In the Waterways Project, this plays a very big part in the overall theme. It's important for us to play a part and maintain these areas within the river for the continuation of life and health of the river system.
There are two styles that can be used together or separately. The first is refined pass, and the second is filtering form. These organic patterns are combined with a beautiful background color gradient to create a soft, shimmery effect similar to the rivers that inspired them. There are 8 colorways in this collection, including neutral earth tones, a deep watery blue, and highlights of aqua and green. The styles are sophisticated and versatile at an exceptional value.
The design itself is meant to, it's sort of built on the biomimicry effect, where we take examples of what we see below the surface of the water and try to recapture and recreate those into a style. Crossing Currents has been designed to be very much a utilitarian product, used in volume throughout spaces where cost becomes an issue. We've developed a very budget-friendly product that is usable for those type of environments. It is also going to be a living product, so it fits all the attributes that we have to achieve to get to a living product status. Crossing Currents and its coordinated package of materials is really a styled for you program. We will show you throughout our architect folders and marketing literature how we can take our Living Local Stoneworks collection our LVT, our carpet tile, and our elemental edges, which is our wall-based program. And we've really built that so that you've got a complete system of products that are designed to work well through design, color, and story to complement the space.
There are 4 pillars that we focus on as like net positive products, human health, recycling, and then the social impact, which is the people positive side of it. And as part of this presentation, which is largely focused on carbon negative architecture, I really wanted to highlight our net positive products as well as human health. The first thing is, what do we mean by net positive carbon and net water positive? So in order for Mohawk Group carpet tiles to reach a carbon positive framework, we first have to measure our footprints through life cycle assessment, environmental product declaration, as well as supplier data. Then we have to figure out how to reduce our footprint by using recycled content, by using dematerialization techniques, and so on. And whatever we cannot balance, we have to offset that by purchase of carbon offsets, as well as through hand-printing initiatives that Mohawk has been a part of. In addition to that, so all of our carpet tiles are net positive carbon, net positive water, but they are also red list free, which means they're free of harmful chemicals of concern. And to our customers who specify our products, who specify our living products, we are able to issue this certificate that you see on the right that can show what your impact would be if you specify these products. So we not only just focus on carbon, we also focus largely on human health as well as like water, because there are so many different issues related to climate change that we all need to focus on. So when it comes to human health, some of you may be familiar with the red list. The red list is essentially a list of chemicals that have been identified by the International Living Future Institute. Those chemicals are found to be bioaccumulative, or they stay in the atmosphere even after the product's life cycle has been completed. We have so many different product options that are red list free. There's carpet tile, there's broadloom, and then there's a couple of hard surface options that Mohawk offers as well. In addition to that, Mohawk also has a take back program called Recover, where we are able to recycle carpet once it has reached its end of life. And we do that through a network of recycling partners that we have across the country. Our customers only have to like call the number or the email address, and then we can help you along with the logistics of the process. In addition to that, Mohawk also recycles 7 billion plastic bottles annually, which number keeps on growing, but we're very proud of that initiative. And that is then put into our residential fiber EverStrand, as well as our commercial fiber, which is EnviroStrand. So these are some of the key initiatives that Mohawk has been really focusing on, which is carbon, human health, recycling. And as part of this presentation, I wanted to take the opportunity to share that with you, as well as like support the AIA in the carbon negative event and any kind of initiative that Mohawk can be a part of. Thank you once again for your time and attention. And the video, as mentioned earlier, is put in the chat link. If you're able to view it, then we would be pleased to share that information with you. All of that is also available on the Mohawk Group website. Thank you and have a good rest of your afternoon.
Well, thank you once again to Rami and Carolyn from Mohawk. We really appreciate that information. This event is made possible by sponsors like them, but it came about specifically because of AIA Detroit's Committee on the Environment and our board leadership. If you walk away inspired this evening and wish to bring more events like this to our community, I encourage you to subscribe to AIA Detroit and join us for our Call to Leadership event in August. We're always looking for new ideas and perspectives in our committees and on the board. All right, so now what you've all been waiting for, I promise, here we are. Tonight's speaker, Nick Koster, is a director and landscape architect at Snøhetta, where he has been actively involved in the design and construction of diverse public spaces since joining in 2011. Snøhetta maintains its original transdisciplinary approach, the collaborative nature of which acts as an essential driving force of the practice. They are a leader in the world of sustainable design, and we are beyond excited to welcome them tonight. I am proud to finally shift the spotlight over to Nick. Nick, please take it away.
Well, it's great to be here. Big thank you to the AIA Detroit for inviting me to this event and allowing us to share Snøhetta's work with my home state of Michigan. I'm going to start off the presentation by sharing a little bit about who we are as a firm. Work at Snøhetta, there's a strong relationship between multidisciplines, and it's a driving force within our work, where landscape and architecture work together without division from the earliest stages of a project. And this project, the Oslo Opera House, is an excellent example of the resultant work. The horizontal nature of the building and its expression working with the program inside of it, while also creating a sense of openness and connectivity to the surrounding city through the activation of its roof as a civic space. Since its opening, the roof itself has really taken on a sense of collective ownership by Oslo's residents, and at times holds many more people on top of it than inside the building. The project has also truly been an economic success, with a sustained increase in the total annual attendance to the opera and the other performances that occur within the building. And a dramatic increase of their revenue has happened since opening in 2008. As well as unexpected outcomes. This is one of my favorite data points. They did not anticipate the success of the building and the number of visitors increasing so rapidly, and this is very accurately reflected in how a year's budget for toilet paper within the public spaces was only really enough for 1 month due to its popularity. And the impetus for this building and the reasons really speak to the sustainability of the project. Like many cities around the world, Oslo was looking to reconnect its civic core to its waterfront by relocating a highway that had divided the city from the water. And as part of this project, expanding the footprint of the opera into the fjord, the project took on the removal of contaminants to the soil, including heavy metals, as it was formerly a port with ships coming in and out of it. That act of removing the contaminants from the water resulted in time improving the water quality and inviting residents as well as waterfowl to reoccupy the water of the fjord. Also below the surface, life came back. A post-occupancy study revealed that marine life and plants have also returned to this once highly polluted environment. In addition to the Opera House, over the past 32 years, the Snøhetta Collective has had the opportunity to work on projects on all 6 continents and have established parent offices both in Oslo and New York City, where I work. We also have 5 satellite offices that support the practice around the globe. And within our New York office, this is our breakdown. We are a place of many voices. We're lucky to be composed of a diversity of people, backgrounds, disciplines, and languages. And within our practice, people are coming from traditional backgrounds, but also people come with bachelor degrees in other fields, or people that work within our operations are bringing all sorts of different aspects to the work, which really embed different ideas into how we think about the work that we are creating. This is a scene that would be fairly common prior to the pandemic when we worked in the office, large tables that we eat lunch on, that throughout the course of the day oscillate between a social and collaboration space. And in the earliest stages of our work, we gather at this table for charrettes and practice, the practice of transpositioning, where we're encouraging people to step outside their discipline boundaries and share their voice and ideas that are all very valid in the conceptual development of our work. In addition to drawings and digital modeling that are part of our architectural and landscape architectural practice, we believe that building things and talking together about pragmatics and the function of buildings and landscapes are really helpful to pull out creative intuition within people and really foster and aid in the development of our work. For today, I'll be sharing with you 3 projects, 2 of which are built and 1 of which is on the books. The first is the Charles Library in Philadelphia at Temple University. So for this project, it's important to adopt an expanded view of habitat, that we think of habitat as the total environment. So the building surroundings, the people living in it, the birds, bees, butterflies that are outside of it, as well as the urban systems that are surrounding it. So really taking urban design, architecture, and the systems-based thinking of landscape architecture thought of as one, with no one discipline being privileged over the other. For those of you that are familiar with the city of Philadelphia, Temple or not, the university is located within North Philadelphia. The building sits just 1 block off of Broad Street, which is one of the main connecting arteries of the city. And within that, the design really seeks to foster a connection to that community, so that the library is both functioning for its traditional functions as a repository for books, but also functions as a diverse and collaborative social and learning space. This library really looks to double the amount of those active spaces that the previous library, the Paley Library, which is at the southern edge of the screen here, provided to the campus. In addition to understanding the building and plan, it's really important to understand its siting and its landscape strategy spatially, that there are 2 large scoops in the facade of the building that draw you in, connecting you into the 2 major pedestrian spines of the campus, and link that to a future quadrangle that the university hopes to build to really embed this central green space that would really become the heart of their campus. So as I mentioned, the library, which ultimately would face this large quadrangle, has an architectural expression that really embraces that generous space given to the community and the campus, as they would as they phase out aging buildings and replace them. What's interesting and sort of helps spur the title this lecture, two of the environmental drivers for the project. One being the green roof, and the other being a book robot called an ASRS, a highly dense automated storage and retrieval system for books. The green roof, with the library's footprint covering a large percentage of the site, we needed a strategy that would be critical to helping manage stormwater in the site, and due to the desire for a very, very highly collaborative library. The traditional stacks that you'd find within a library are really anti to that being possible, as they break up the space, go up high to the ceiling, and don't provide a lot of visibility. The ASRS, or affectionately known as the BookBot, drastically reduces the amount of space for books. This robot has the ability to store up to 2 million books. I believe Temple's collection has about 1.5 million within it. They were actually able to bring a lot of books out of deep storage that usually took a while to get those books into circulation. So the books are actually, on average, much more readily accessible to the student body and the researchers at the university. So this move of the ARS, what it did is really allowed for the building to revolve around its central social space, the atrium, creating a center of gravity for the building. It serves both as an orientation device, and it minimizes your distance of travel between the different between the entries and the different spaces in which you're going. You're constantly visually connected to the outside, back out to the campus, and at 4 stories tall, you're really never more than 1 story away from it, and will always have visual connection to all floors. And just to help orient everyone, I'm going to go through a series of cutaway drawings that explain how the use of this book robot helped orient the spaces within the building. So this drawing is showing the dome and how it was used as an orientation device to create these connections through campus. You see the large volume of the ASRS sunken into the basement in the back. Removing the dome, you see the public programs of the first floor. So the lobby with its high transparency, the 24/7 space, including a cafe, giving students access to the building at any hour of the day, as well as the only public-facing computers in the building, which are for the community. So as you come in from the lobby, there are computer terminals here that are accessible for students as well as people who live in the neighborhood. And then anchoring the 2nd and the 3rd floor around the atrium are spaces that offer writing, tutoring spaces, access to digital fabrication, immersive technologies, and the Temple University Press, which does a large amount of publishing. And those spaces that are pulled away from the atrium, those are largely spaces that are for staff and other scholars. So really all of the public aspects of it are circling around its staircases that lead you up to the 4th floor. And so the building's not totally devoid of stacks, and this is really one of my favorite spaces within the building, which is the 4th floor. It's a space that's focused on research and allows you to access to books that are more high-touch books. So books like the art, architecture books, periodicals are all located up in this floor, as well as 2 large reading rooms for the graduate and undergraduate populations. And so really it's a draw to get you to migrate up through the space and connect with people throughout the building and be exposed to some of the different facilities that the library has to offer. Here there are 200,000 volumes of books which anchor this room. And a big part of this space is really its connection to the outside. This room is glazed on all four sides with views out to the intensive green roofs. That the first image that we saw starting this project is a view looking out into that space, really creating the experience that you're up in a retreat or embedded within nature. And so the green roof, a little bit more about that, was really conceived as a meadow landscape created with ornamental grasses and perennials, composed of 15 to 20 different species that provide for rich urban habitat for pollinators. If anyone, again, is familiar with North Philadelphia, it's a pretty heavy brick and concrete area where a roof of this size really provides a welcome relief within the roofscapes, both for its benefits and stormwater management capture, as well as reducing heat island effect, but also just a bit of visual relief as well. More than 40 meeting rooms and study spaces are also interspersed through this floor in the building, available for reservation, with a lot of them capturing on these views that look out to the lower intensive green roof as well as the campus. And so I had mentioned the computer terminals on the first floor. Something that the library has adopted is a commitment to full mobile technology. So they offer laptops and charging banks on every floor, which really liberates the floor plan from being locked down by traditional desktops, as technology needs are sure to keep adapting. The spaces remain highly flexible and reconfigurable for people to use them in a variety of ways. The design with its large open glazing and cantilevers and wood soffits reaching out to large flexible space plazas really seeks to create an inviting design that inspires students to engage directly more with the library and seek it out and want to explore it. The library also marks one of the largest investments in new facilities in Temple's history, and at the pedestrian level really serves as a point of intersection between students, faculty, staff, and the surrounding community, who would also be using these pedestrian walkways to circulate and get to different services within this urban campus embedded within the community. Highlighting the landscape and the site design one more time, the library's stormwater management system, in addition to the green roofs, is made up of a large amount of pervious paving, as well as 2 large underground catchment basins that can store and process nearly 500,000 gallons of water during storm events. So the site itself can completely manage its stormwater for its 3 acres, as well as about another half an acre of impervious area just directly to the west of the site. And finally, a view of the library space at night. Okay, so moving to a project that's closer to home for me, the Times Square reconstruction project here in New York. So this project was completed by Snøhetta in 2017, and post-completion, we've done quite a bit of research and studying the metrics of the project. And so the project has had measurable positive impact on public safety, air quality within the area, and economic output for its bid, the building improvement around it, noticeable increases with rents and the like. So at the same time, we really feel that this project stands as a model for how careful consideration of designing urban landscapes can improve the health and well-being of its users, and at the same time provides a very important democratic gathering space to New York City and the world, as well as for the people who live here, providing a great space to partake in everyday urban life. Walking through for those of you who've been here or not been here, just to give you an idea of its scale. It's comparable to other major squares or public spaces that are around the world that we study in architecture or landscape architecture school. But Times Square really, prior to this project, wasn't defined by much more than the urban canyon of buildings and lights that surrounded it. It was something you knew through the ball drop or other places, and walking to it or into it, it really had no public space or grounding. Its name really denoted something that it was not. This is a view of what it looked like prior to 2009, when a pilot project was started to take over Broadway and give it back to pedestrians. It was devoid of pedestrian space. It was overcrowded. In peak tourist times, you could have up to over 300,000 people a day moving through the space. So really, really intensely occupied. People would literally be falling off of the sidewalks, a condition called pedlock. There was just nowhere for people to go. A graphic of what that transition looked like. So prior to what the city of New York called the green light for Midtown, which converted Broadway between 42nd and 47th Street into plazas, 37% of the non-building space in Times Square, so streets, sidewalks, 37% of that total was open space that was available for pedestrians. Following closing Broadway in 2009, 66% of that space was converted into open space for pedestrians. So a real radical departure. Addition to needing to upgrade the public realm or public space, there was a large amount of critical infrastructure below grade that needed to be addressed. The city's aging systems for utilities like water, sewer, electrical, newer utilities like fiber optics, all needed to be addressed. And so the project was really bundled as an infrastructure project. The project had a really large stakeholder group, as you can imagine. I believe 10 different stakeholder groups plus community agencies, ranging the stakeholder groups ranging from the bid to the Department of Transportation, the police, fire department, the mayor's office, everyone who had an interest within the space. So to understand really the needs of this transformation of giving back the street to people, we really needed to understand the input of all the people who this change would affect. To understand that, we analyzed it, and in addition to talking with them, understanding the program, learning that actually a lot of people work in this area and need to come here on a day-to-day. It's also a big place for shopping, in addition to the tourists that come here. So it does address both the needs of New Yorkers as well as the tourist destination that it is. We also took a big look at where the people were coming from and where the quantities of those people were and where the largest influxes of people were and how those numbers and flows might help the design, as well as where people would get stuck and tend to linger. This diagram we have affectionately called the measures of irritation. So the areas in red really where you saw people not moving at the theater let out hours between 9 and 11 p.m. Orange and yellow being places where you could actually free flow and move a bit more. And important to our work, and I'm sure all of your work, is really the visual observation of a space, how the space was being used, and really understanding that this was a space that people did come, they did linger, but it was severely lacking any sort of infrastructure to create a pleasant experience for people. Just this family sitting on the curb having their midday meal just was a sure sign that there was little that could be done that would create drastic improvements to the space. So these observations put together really resulted in this understanding of the space that ideally people would want to move fast or quicker at the building edges if you're someone who's circulating through. And what we noticed was sort of revealed in some of those previous diagrams that were shared is that once Broadway was closed, people tended to linger within the plaza spaces. So slower circulation, almost eddies, that these were spaces that had the opportunity through design to become active in social spaces within Times Square. A helpful orientation device just to understand where those sidewalks and medians were that had defined Times Square prior to the installation of the plazas, and following that, what that could become. So a series of 5 generous plazas from building face to 7th Avenue curb, as well as expanded sidewalks, creating generous spaces for pedestrians as well as activities. And thinking about design as a unifier for this space, we looked to the street and to the history of the place to develop a custom paving system for the plazas and sidewalks. Precast pavers that their color really took the cues from the hue of the street and the sidewalks, and embedding some of those pavers with stainless steel pucks, really thinking of them as an abstract reference to the lights of Broadway, the Great White Way. And the image here of the pavers too, demonstrating that through the orientation of the pavers, we could also preserve Broadway, the line of it, by creating 2 different orientations, one that addressed 7th Avenue and the other that ran along Broadway. So a very simple intervention, as opposed to adding more light, really using materiality to capture light and throw it around within that paving surface through the addition of these stainless steel discs. And to create a seamlessness between these spaces, using a similar material for the materiality of the crosswalks, using a smaller version of the precast pavers to link plaza space to plaza space or sidewalk space to sidewalk space. A big idea that resulted from the workshop was the idea of simplification and declutter. So removing layers of above grade infrastructure that had been added over time and creating the unified ground plane. And to address some of the needs that we saw for people, and also to anchor the space, the design team came up with 5 bench typologies that were quite large, ranging from at a minimum 5 feet wide, between 30 and 50 feet long, that in a way acted really as urban couches that would provide these anchors to the space, as well as provide people with a variety of different ways that they could occupy them, leaning on them, standing on them, eating, sitting, and large enough that in a space that was as big as Times Square, you wouldn't necessarily need to be occupying this bench by yourself. The benches, as arranged and located throughout the plazas, would frame spaces for activities to occur that were sized in such a way that a large variety of programs could be accommodated between them. So anything from locals to other locals, dogs, to tourists acting like dogs, as well as providing opportunities for the nighttime activation, a variety of large-scale programming activities, such as the yoga on the summer solstice. This was one of about 300 events per year that, prior to the pandemic, were being hosted within Times Square, in addition to what we all know, the New Year's Eve ball drop. On a day-to-day, when those 65 days where there weren't performances, kiosks that would serve food, wine and beer, creating much more of a piazza-like atmosphere. Even additionally, really big events like rodeos could take place within these spaces. The plaza also still remains a place to see and be seen. This is looking back to an image of what those spaces looked like before. Again, highly congested, full of cars, to this same view with Broadway removed, anchored by some of the large benches, transformed into a place providing spaces that can function on the day-to-day for tourists, as well as the locals, and be transformed for events. Going back to infrastructure, thinking about what's currently being talked about in our country's legislature, and an idea of infrastructure projects. This project is an interesting example of that. The project, 2/3 of its overall costs are on things that you didn't even see. So the infrastructure upgrades that I mentioned that were below ground, but all being managed by a design firm that was thinking about the coordination of those items for what would be happening above, and the overall future vision and expression that was realized of those plaza spaces. And in terms of what I mentioned at the beginning, the metrics that we were looking at. This is some post-occupancy research work that was done with the firm HRNA, different measures of sustainability that were achieved. So in terms of economic sustainability, the increases that we're seeing in retail prices, or excuse me, retail rents, as well as tax revenues, social sustainability, safer spaces for pedestrians, less people getting hit by cars with the complicated intersections of 7th Avenue and Broadway intersecting, a decrease in crime with more visibility, and environmentally a pretty good decrease in pollution by the removal of cars and other vehicles within these spaces. Now moving closer to home for those of you that are tuning in from the Detroit area. Back in 2007, Snøhetta was hired by the Ford Motor Company to lead a 2-year master planning process for the research and engineering campus. Over the course of a year, we conducted over 40 different employee focus group interviews that were reviewing the way in which they worked, how they wanted to work, and also previous master planning studies that had been conducted. So the resultant of that, in a way, visioning exercise was to package it all in through the creation of a new master plan and vision for the research and engineering campus. And from those interviews, we developed with the Ford team a conceptual framework for the master plan, one that conceived of Ford's both built as well as their natural environments, the employees that occupy those built environments, the neighboring communities, as well as the movement between all of them as a real symbiotic relationship that we came to talk about and understand as one Ford ecosystem. Again, like the Times Square project, to really understand the scale of what we are working with and thinking about when we're looking at the research and engineering campus. The image on the right is Dearborn's research and engineering campus with an outline in red. That outline is transposed onto Lower Manhattan. The research and engineering campus, I believe, had anywhere from 11 to 12,000 people working on it during any given day, whereas Lower Manhattan, again, another prior to the pandemic, would have upwards of 300,000 people living and working within this space. So this comparison, what was very eye-opening to us, the understanding that, of course, the context is completely different, but there was an idea of density or densification that could be explored. The existing conditions for the campus, looking at quantifying the surface area, you have buildings, you have a very large percentage of at-grade parking areas and fragmented open spaces. Comparing that to the master plan that developed over those that 2-year period, a density of people was achieved in co-locating them and roughly doubling the population without a very large increase in building footprints. So again, being able to create a design solution to this problem of creating a new way of working together that would facilitate greater knowledge exchange, collaboration, create spaces for those informal social interactions that are so wonderful within cities or urban environments, and heightened through your proximity to others and the connectivity that you have to them. How that was greatly achieved is by whittling away the at-grade parking areas. So of course, this is a master plan and something that's meant to be phased in over time. So ultimately, in the future, we would be able to pull at-grade parking out and use more parking decks, and moving people back and forth through mobility solutions that would allow for them to occupy this really dense environment. And by maintaining a similar building area and reducing the parking area, one of the big benefits of that is increasing open space. The open space numbers really increase in the overall development of the master plan. Some of the other key components are adding to that idea of social interaction, providing a public space for the research and engineering campus along Oakwood Boulevard, which creates connections across the street to the Henry Ford Museum, as well as just to downtown Dearborn to the west. So creating visibility and meaningful connections that would allow for engagement with its context. So if you're to peel away those parking spots to understand what's there, this is a plan looking at the existing vegetation on site. So through the addition of buildings over time, we can achieve that density we want for the architecture and for the collaboration of employees. But additionally, a goal of the master plan was to create a density of landscape, and really with the goal of providing increased habitat, a huge reduction in heat island effect, and the increase of carbon capture that the addition of all of those trees would create, and using strategies that would reduce maintenance expenses over time by restoring native ecologies. And a big and driving idea of why to be doing all that was really to promote the health and wellness among the employees that would be working within these buildings. So providing them in their highly collaborative urban work environment, immediate proximity to nature, and the ability to get outside and take a walk or go for a run, or look out their window and see something quite beautiful. So to understand how we could achieve density within the landscape, we looked to pre-development ecologies that were on site. So in addition to the idea of density, like the buildings, we wanted the landscape to promote productivity. The site actually had quite an interesting pre-development history. It sat on the boundary of two very rich ecologies, each with their own unique planting soils and hydrological characteristics, one being a mixed oak savanna and the other beech sugar maple forest. These are images of what some examples of those pre-development ecologies would look like, and some sections to understand their different characteristics. So understanding that in terms of productivity, they have different functions, the ways in which they manage stormwater and sort of their soils and how the soils relate to the plants that are within them. So we looked at those various typologies and how we could incorporate them, their plant communities, their soil typologies into different stormwater management typologies for pretreatment and storage on the site. And looked at them through a series of chunks or vignettes here that explored different ideas that how these could really manifest. With the ultimate goal of these typologies being deployed across the site as various phases of the project get built, that these systems are part of a linked system, and that over time, gradually, these stormwater channels, ponds, runnels, the different features would all create this network or this addition to the overall forward ecosystem, and that a really distinct landscape would develop and link up with the existing natural areas, allowing for habitat as well as recreation connections, really creating quite a robust and resilient site for the RNE campus. So now, still in the master plan, moving inside the building, as part of the strategy, there were also multiple courtyard spaces that had been envisioned to provide and allow access to daylight. And each of those courtyards is inspired by a different native Michigan landscape, each of them having their own identity. They're each thought of as a lens within the landscape, focusing on specific plant communities and specific geological features of Michigan. The public realm, the ground around these buildings is really envisioned as a rich space for pedestrians, multiple transit opportunities, public-facing amenities. The transportation could be anything from campus shuttles to bikes or scooter shares, or well thought out site connections for pedestrians to move through. Really regulating the use of personal vehicles to the perimeters to achieve that level of density and interaction between the employees. And moving back out into the landscape, this is a view that shows what a way in which the site could be occupied. So we're not looking at fully restoring the ecologies to something that you might find on a walk in a nature preserve, but this is a view looking at transition between the forest ecology on the right in winter and the savanna ecology in the back left, and how a network of paths could be introduced, and throughout this landscape, things like meeting pavilions could be constructed that would allow for breakout meetings outside of the building, or informal workspaces that are really immersive and provide a wonderful connection to the natural world, that create a highly visual but functional space to work. To close, I'm gonna fast forward to today. So in 2001, we are still working with Ford, and we're working on the central campus building. And so this is the first building of the master plan that's getting realized. So we're really excited to be able to share a few of these images that were very recently prepared for the project. So the building really embodies the master plan vision for a community engaged, future inspired, human centric workplace with systems for mobility, the site and landscape, and the building architecture working in concert to create a distinct and stimulating campus experience for the employees working in here, the suppliers, visitors, and the public at large, which will be much more aware of what's going on in the campus. And the courtyards are still very present. So the building has both offices as well as some of the core functions of the motor company in it, with very close connections between workspaces, facilitating impromptu meetings and the ability for people to engage on a day-to-day basis. Also people to use these outdoor spaces that are adjacent to these courtyards. So providing the ability for breakout spaces or outdoor workspaces within them. This courtyard is the Michigan landscape that is being shown here is the beech sugar maple forest that we had seen images of prior. So really taking the flora of that ecology and heightening it, creating a space that really accentuates it and makes it very visible from a multitude of views throughout the building. The building is really looking to communicate both the legacy and the future of Ford. So a very solid masonry base and a very light and transparent upper levels of glass with a wispy frit pattern on it. This is a view that I love. It's a view of the central campus building adjacent to one of the new mobility routes that'll be moving through the campus. And in the foreground, you see some of those stormwater management features that are incorporated, capturing water from the impervious driving surfaces as well as the roof, and showcasing them and making them visible as they move throughout the campus, as well as opening out onto what we've named the Commons, a large park-like gathering space within the center of the campus, which highlights some of the beautiful trees that have existed on the campus for 100 years or more. So really being able to showcase some of those existing features, beautiful natural site features that the site had. And so we're very excited to be part of this project within the Detroit metro area that will be a catalyst for future projects on the campus, and looks to really be a model for a way of working, as well as a highly sustainable work environment.
Well, thank you, Nick, so much for being with us tonight. We are so excited and grateful to have you and just have Snøhetta presenting to our membership and our community. Everyone, thank you so much for attending this program as well. We promise that there is plenty more great programs with AIA Detroit this year, so make sure that you're subscribed, and we will follow up regarding Snøhetta's presentation with both CEU certificates and if you're an AIA member, credits reported to your transcript. Nick, thank you once again, and everyone, thank you and have a wonderful evening. We appreciate all of you.
Thank you, Lauren.